إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إلهنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين، سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين، واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أعداء الله من الآن إلى لقاء يوم الدين. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم: أن تقول نفس يا حسرة على ما فرطت في جنب الله وإني لكنت لمن الساخرين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of Sayyid al-Shuhada Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and his companions, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The topic of this, inshallah, Muharram will be surrounding one of the uncomfortable topic that human beings usually have difficulty to discuss. And that is the concept of what is life and what is death, and especially when it comes to death, how we can understand and think about death without leading to anxiety and depression and sadness and grief. Because usually when we think about death, we think about leaving what we love, putting behind what we admire and what we wish to spend time with. It could be family, it could be whatever form of attachment that we have. And how is that even possible to think of that without the sense of grief and agony? And when we hear that a statement of Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam, that when his uncle asked him this question, how do you look at death? In front of you, you see this test and trial. And we heard this statement, it's a very famous and well-known statement, but to understand it and put ourselves in Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam position, maybe we were able to repeat it verbally, but to believe in it, it requires a lot of contemplation, a lot of conviction in order to come to that level. To say, Al-Mawtu indi ahla min al-asal. That death for me is sweeter than honey. And if you show that to a statement to somebody who look at it from the very liberal perspective, he said, oh, God forbid, maybe this person was a depressed person, was suicidal, who doesn't have any form of interest in this life and living. So he says, he prefers death over life. And that's what one of the sign of, for some people who are depressed or suicidal, that they show this sense of hopelessness, that there is no hope in life, and the only solution for them is death. And in reality, the life of this young man is far away from any form of depression. He's someone who, his short life, which is not that long, according to reports, he was in his teens when the Shahada of Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam happened, is a man who's happy with his life. Somebody who, his words and his even facing the enemy in the day of Ashura shows that how much love and compassion he has for the ideals that he is sacrificing his life for. It's not a way of a hopeless person who is ready to just get rid of life. And he grabs on life, even in the day of Ashura when he's fighting with the enemy. The reality is that to somebody to come to that level of understanding that life is precious, life is valuable, we should not put ourselves in a position of putting our life in jeopardy. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. We heard this ayah so many times. Don't put yourself with your own hand in the path of destruction. Right? But there are exceptions. When it comes to ideals and when it comes to values, you are ready to put this precious gift and treasure that you have in line in order to preserve what is more important than life. And one of those matters, in our opinion, is our aqeedah, our belief, that what we stand for. And sometimes it requires that cost and that price. If you ask this question, that we talk about the past, what is the relevance of the life of Sayyid al-Shuhada and Karbala and Ashura to our daily lives? What's the relevance? We are dealing with different form of challenges. Why we talk about that? One of the relevance of the topic of Ashura for all of us is to understand that sometimes to stand for what you believe, it requires sacrifice. Maybe the magnitude of the sacrifice is not the same in different times and different circumstances, but ultimately you have to sacrifice. You have to endure some form of difficulty and hardship in order to stand for what you believe in. The relevance of this story. When my hijabi sister is dealing with bullies in the workplace, in their school, even outside in public, abusive, racist, and bigots who are sometimes verbally abusing them, or sometimes, God forbid, even comes to the extension of physically being abused. That requires a form of sacrifice to maintain that identity and to raise a generation without fear to still wear hijab. When you're praying in public and you see all those, some of them are, curious stares, but some of them are disgust, gaze upon you as you pray. It requires that endurance to be able to do the same thing when it comes to the prayer time and there's no other option, and stay on what you believe and still practice what you believe in, and putting aside this small cost of being the odd one in the middle of the public. So there are challenges that we face. But what I want to talk about tonight is one of the matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran warns us about is make sure live in a way that your regrets are the most important threat for you, that you ultimately care about, that you have the least amount of regret in life. Hasrat, which is one of the names of the Day of Judgment, is one of those issues that people on daily basis they suffer. Last night I was talking about some of the games and how obsessed some of the children and the teenagers are with the games. I remember last week I was talking to one of these 12, 13-year-old teenagers, and he was saying, at the beginning, before Fortnite was the hit, before it is, the huge phenomenon that it is today, I made a mistake that I regret till today. That, I wasted what I had, the credit or whatever it was. And I said, how long ago was this? A few months ago. I said, you still regret about that? I said, yes, I still regret that decision. And in our lifetime, we regret a lot of decisions we make. For example, when it comes to marriage, all due respect to our married couples who married in different cultures, I say this piece of advice to everyone. Getting married to a different culture, a different ethnicity is perfectly halal and permissible. But understand the cost. Understand the price that you have to pay. When you marry someone from a different religion, understand. Even if they say shahada to get married, understand the cost. When somebody come to me and said, I have a 20-year-old right now, and I got married to someone 20 years ago, and that person said, she's not Muslim. And I said, for a second I was in a moment of shock that you married somebody who was not. I said, no, she said the shahada, right? But I know that she's not a Muslim because in 20 years she never participated in anything within the faith, And I'm the one who bring the children to the masjid, but I know I regret the decision I make. I regret the decision I make 20 years later. Regrets are what usually hold us back. And the time that we live in, unfortunately, because of, I think it goes to the social aspect of risk-taking. You know, it's a form of encouragement to take risks. The youth easily take huge risks in their lifetime. You know, we can study that from the behavioral point of view, that, you know, from the way that the games and the entertainment that they are consuming at the young age, all the way when they go to college, and how much the college environment is encouraging them to take risks, how much the media and the movies and books that they read encourage them to take risks. But we are living with a time that a lot of people taking very, very bold, they're making very bold decisions, which is a high risk in that decision. And they said, and you warn them that maybe you regret about this. Think about this before you make this decision. And they said, we're okay with it. Usually at the moment, we're okay with it. And I can tell you hundreds of times that probably 80% of the time of the people that I warn them about a decision they make in any aspect of life, 80% of the time they end up regretting it. Not because I'm such a knowledgeable person. Don't give the credit to me. It just requires a bit of common sense to see some of the situation, that how much this decision is a bad decision. You don't need to be an expert or a scholar to know that. You need to just be sane for a moment to understand that this decision is not a good decision. But we take risks. And Allah said, be aware of that sometimes what you're risking is something that you cannot fix later on. One of those topics that we have is when it comes to this life and when it comes to our faith, that we gamble our faith. People come and say, you know, I've read this somewhere online that hijab is this. You know, hijab is not really wajib. And I said, you know how many scholars talk about that wajib, obligations? When we talk about hijab, as from the point of view of Islamic point of view, the majority of a scholar, because there's always there few bizarre and very rare opinions when it comes to every fatwa. When you go to majority of ulama, this is what the point of view is. There is no debate when it comes to the hijab and the wujub and the obligation of hijab. So what about that scholar? What about that thing that I read somewhere? And I said, it's your decision. Are you ready to gamble your faith based on that one article or one opinion or what that one Facebook page? Is up to you. And some people are ready to gamble. They put aside the well-known opinion of the ulama aside and they go with one bizarre opinion. Why is that? Why people go with that one bizarre fatwa? And everybody knows bizarre fatwa, right? The controversial fatwa. Everybody knows that marja. Everybody knows that one specific scholar with that fatwa. And I said, why you know about this? Is it because of this fatwa? So we look for what is appealing to our nafs. And we're ready to gamble because that's what we like. That's what we want. And sometimes anything is between, whatever is between us and what we want, we're ready to remove it, even if it's the cost of that is our iman. Even if the cost of that is our aqidah, our belief. And we have, Rasulullah gave us that advice. He said, whenever you're confused between this, if it's right or wrong, right? The hadith of Sayyid Shahid alayhi salam, if we don't know the haqq and batil. The hadith said, look at your nafs and desires. The one that is against your desires, that is what is haqq is about. Mukhalifatul hawa. You see which one is appealing to you, which one you really like, not because of reason, not because of aql, not because of knowledge. No, you like it. For some reason, you have it's a form of attraction toward that. Your nafs really wanted that. Disagree with that one, go against that one, because your nafs never seek and desire what is good. Usually is opposite. And I've given example before. If you ask children what they want to do, majority of children, they said, let us play. Even if they are 14, 15 years old, you don't find that many that said, okay, please let me study more. Give me a few more hours to study. It's always appealing to the desire. That's what the nafs is about. Even animals, we have that, if you talk to people who know a bit about animals, domesticated, we'd call them domesticated animal. So some of them, if you let them eat, they will eat until literally they explode. They desire to eat, let's say the grass or whatever, if you leave them in the field, you have to have a certain amount of time for them to eat, and then you force them to leave. Because that's part of the nature, they don't know when to stop. Because they are domesticated, you are the one trained them to eat the way you want it, and that's why one of the reason when you go to the wild, they say don't feed the animal, right? Don't feed the ducks or the goose or whatever other animal you see. Don't feed them because they know the natural way of finding the food. When you do that, you're disrupting the natural process. So domesticated animal, that's the way. A human being, as we have in mantiq, in philosophy, they define human being haywanun natiq. The way they define human being, that we are a haywan, we're animal, but with the ability of a speech. That's make us different from them. Cognition, and in order to be able to express that cognition, haywanun natiq. And if we embrace the haywaniya, if we embrace the animal side of our existence, as Imam Ali alayhi salam said, that's the whole challenge of this dunya. That either you embrace the haywaniya or you embrace the aql and ruhaniya, one of the other. If you control the haywaniya, aql and the ruh will be able to express itself, show itself, come to the surface. But if you let the haywaniya to take over, the aql and the reasoning and the common sense and everything means nothing. So Allah in Quran said, Ya hasrata ala ma farrattu fi janbillah. One of the regrets of the man is that in the day of judgment, human beings said, what a great regret for the man is that what I left, what I've neglected when I was by Allah's side. When I had Allah with me, when I had the message of Allah, janbillah, it doesn't mean, of course, the close proximity. It means that you had the message of Allah, you had the guidance, you had everything. But ma farrattu, I neglected it, I ignored it. I didn't take it seriously. And Allah said, وَإِنِّي لَكُنْتُ لَمِنَ السَّاخِرِينَ. And indeed, I was one of those who were mocking. I take everything as a joke. They were not a big deal. They were not important. The word hasra in Arabic comes from hasara. Hasara is when you expose something. When you remove the obstacles, when you remove the cover, that's what hasara is. If somebody removed the hijab, they said this is hasara. Hasira is the one who removes the hijab. So hasra in Arabic, why it come from that? Because usually we regret when we end up finding out about the true value of something. When we figure out, what we ignored, how valuable that was, we end up being regretful. Or how harmful something was and we know the true harm, it being exposed, it become clear to us, we regret. That's what the reason hasrat, regret, come from the word hasara in Arabic. It becomes clear to you. And Allah said in the day of judgment, one of them is Yawmul Hasra, the day of regrets. Because when death happens, the true value of everything becomes clear. That's the reason Hadith said, Mutu qabla an tamutu, die before they make you die. It means that know the value of things in this dunya before you figuring it out and finding out after death. That's the meaning, die before they take you, before they make you die. Know the value of it here. For somebody who is, alhamdulillah, we're blessed that we were raised with the love of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. For some people, when you talk about ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, you see that their eyes start, the tears, without their consent, start to flow. And you don't understand why. If you are not from the same kind of mentality, you don't understand it. Because it's clear to them what value they are going to, what kind of valuable journey they're embarking upon. That become clear. And Yawmul Hasra is a day that is too late. The day of judgment, for some, it will be a day of regret, and it's too late to fix anything. Because in this dunya, maybe something we regret the decision, there's some way, somehow you can fix the bad decision, the wrong decision you made. But in the akhirah, the day of judgment, the death, when it happens, is too late. And Allah in Quran said, وَلَيْسَتِ التَّوْبَةُ لِلَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Repentance are not for those people that they do all the wrong, all the evil that they could do, حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَ أَحَدَهُمُ الْمَوْتِ, until death confronts them. قَالَ إِنِّي تُبْتُ الْآنِ. Then they said, I repent now. They postponed repentance and tawbah until death comes. Based on this ayah, if somebody repents out of unavoidable death, according to this ayah, it will be too late. Because they did not do the tawbah based on the free will. They have no other option. Tawbah finds meaning when you are able, you're capable of doing something otherwise. So if I eat halal meat, because my mom buying the halal meat, there's no credit that, oh, alhamdulillah, my bite is halal. When there's an option for me to buy halal and haram and I go with the halal, that's the value, because I had a possibility to go to the other way. When there is no situation in public, that's the reason in public we are watching our behavior, right? We watch everything, the way we look at people, the way we talk to people. That has not that much value, because others are watching. You don't have another option. But the moment you go to the private, you're dealing with your family, you're dealing with people that they are not as formal with you, that's the moment you show your true face. And that's a test. That in khalwa, in private, how are you? We have a hadith by Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, Sayyid salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's a famous tradition that in the day of judgment, some people will enter the heaven without hisab. We talk about Yawm al-Hisab inshallah as we continue, but we have this hadith that there is a measurement, there is calculation, there is accountability, but there are a group of people that they will enter heaven without hisab. بغير حساب, without any accountability. And we have that angels even will ask them, هل رأيتم حسابا? Did you see any hisab, any calculation, any questioning? And they said no. Did you see this? Did you see, all the promises of Allah, which is definite. Why it didn't happen to you? And the answer is out of Allah's mercy. So, but what did you do that Allah has this mercy especially for you? So we had two qualities. That's the reason we didn't see hisab. Number one, Radhi bima qassam Allah. We were satisfied with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala planned for us. We were not complainers. We worked, we tried, we struggled, but whatever was the outcome, we didn't complain. This is my qismah. This is what I'm supposed to have from the right way. We were radhi, we were satisfied. That's number one. When you are radhi, you don't have greed, right? When you don't have greed, you don't end up in so many sins, because greed is the backbone of so many other sins, the foundation of many other sins. We're greedy to have this and have that and have that, and we're ready to do that, to break so many rules in order to get what we want. So that's number one. We were radhi bima qassam Allah. And number two, nastahyi. Kunna idha khalawna nastahyi an na'siyah. The second thing that ended up giving us this mercy, special mercy of Allah, that we did not see any form of hisab, is that when in dunya, in our lifetime, when we were in private, when we were alone, we had that haya to commit Allah's disobedience. We had that sense of self-control when we were alone. We know that Allah, the same way we have in one of the ulama, somebody went and asked this, and I think we have one of the Ahlul Bayt also similar to this story. A young man came and asked, it's a hard time for me to control myself. I want to stop myself from committing certain form of haram, but I can't. I'm weak. Teach me something. And we have that the answer from that alim was, imagine if a 5-year-old is watching you, would you commit that sin? A 5-year-old is standing in front of you, would you watch that? Would you do that? That you consider haram? If the answer is no, imagine and be embarrassed that Allah is present and you still go through with the sin. That in your eye, the significance and importance of a child judging you is greater than the judgment of Allah. Think of it that way, that how much the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is evident for you. So, كُنَّا إِذَا خَلَوْنَا نَسْتَحْيِي أَن نَعْصِيَ. It's very difficult. One of the reasons we end up in having public issues is because our private life start having problem. Eventually it expresses and manifests itself in a public life. Rasulullah said, if you want to know the mu'min is mu'min with his family. If you want akhlaq, is with family. If you want husnul khulq, well manners, good manners, family. Why is that? Because with family, nobody can play games. In public, we always have the best mask that we can have. Everybody is nice, majority of people. There are exceptions even in public, but in most of the cases, when it comes to private life, that's a true test. I'm not saying that we should not be respectful in public. Some people said, oh, what you mean is we have to be the same way that we're with family, with others. No, we have to change it. The same way in your public, imagine that, be the same way, even better with your family. But we want to be comfortable with our family, right? That's the reason I have a family, to be myself. People say that, right? I'm forced to be this way at my workplace. I have to be this with someone else, with friends. But with my family, I want to be who I am. And I said, okay, please don't be a version of yourself that is that horrible that people cannot live with you. If you're that hard to tolerate with your family, you cannot say, oh, my family has to suffer. Accept me the way I am. No, you have to change yourself. If you're unbearable, there's something wrong with the way you are. Yes, family has to be forgiving, has to be supportive. They have to help in the path of becoming better. But it's not justifiable to stay the way we are, because change is difficult. Change requires energy. It requires to sacrifice, be less selfish. Because if you stay who you are, it's not difficult. If I give a lecture on this, that my dear brothers and sisters, this famous tradition, which is a very da'if, very weak tradition, that there are paths toward God equal to the number of mankind. طرق إلى الله بعدد الخلائق, something like that. Very weak tradition. But they use that, and it's very appealing as well. There is a path for you. You are a person with short temper, you have your own path to God. You're a thief, you have your own path to God. You're a cheater, you have your own path to God. Justifying the way we are, no change is required. Stay the way you are. That will be a very appealing lecture. But when we talk about change and actually leaving our comfort zone, becoming someone better, which someone is not the same person that we are, we have to change it. It requires a bit of discomfort. It requires discomfort. The same way you want to lose weight, it requires discomfort. Any form of change required that sacrifice. So regret happens. And one of the regret of the man is That what we could have done and we didn't. In this dunya, the question is how we avoid regrets. This Yawm al-Hasra, this day of regret that is facing all of us regardless, how we can live a life with least amount of regret. What are the keys? Quran talks about the reason. Number one is, so if you know the cause of regret, stay away from it, challenge it, fight it, and you will not have that many regret. Eliminate the source, you will live a life of no regret or least amount of regret. Number one, in Surah Yasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. What a great regret is for the servant of Allah. What they did? That when the prophets of God came to them, when the messengers of God came to them, what they did? Mustahzi'een. They were making fun of them. They were mocking them. In the ayah that I recite from Surah Zumar, it refers to people that they said, Ya hasrata ala ma farrattu fi janbillah. What a great regret for me that I neglected when I was by the side of Allah. And they said, indeed, I was one of those who ridiculed and made fun of the truth, made fun of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message. So the first cause of regret is making fun of the haqq, ridiculing what is haqq. People or the message, either way. Istihza is one of the greatest reasons of regret, when you make fun of something. Even making fun of people, making fun of the message, or making fun of the way of life. There's a tradition which I personally remember, I experienced it in myself in my own lifetime. The hadith said, for the honor of the Rasulullah, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If somebody make fun of another mu'min, if somebody mocks another mu'min over something, they will, and we have that sometimes said, if you make fun of someone over their sin, you mock them, you ridicule them for a sin, you will not die unless you commit the same or worse than that. If you make fun of over a sin, it's not about Amr bil Ma'ruf, this is not about Nahy al Munkar, this is not about any of that. You make fun of them. Oh, what a weak person he or she is. And thanks to the social media, we can make fun of people better than the way we think we can. It's much easier. So you will not die unless you commit the same thing, or even worse than that. That's a promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Istihza causes regret. You know, and Imam Ali alayhi salam said, in your friendship, even in your enmity with people, have moderation. And Imam alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha explained, said, when you are enemy of someone, don't show a level of enmity and hatred that if one day you become friends, you're going to regret what you said or what you did. And even with your friends, don't say all the secrets that you have, which in our religion, you know, confessions, literally. We don't have anything such as confession, dark secrets. Don't say everything, even to your closest friend. If one day, for whatever reason, right now it could be just, you know, an Instagram, you didn't like my Instagram post, we're not friends anymore, right? That's sometimes it's ridiculous, the reason people change their side of friendship. So don't say everything, all the secrets of your life, even to your closest friend, that if one day that person end up becoming your opposition and enemy, you will not be embarrassed of what he or she knows about you. Moderation. Moderation. And when it comes to istihza is passing the state of moderation. When you make fun of someone, that's reason in no tradition is permissible to make fun of anything. And as I said, even if somebody commit a sin, you don't have a permission, I don't have a permission to make fun of them. You know, when somebody make a mistake, unfortunately, in some communities, I feel that people making the sin as a way it is more public. Even they point fingers. Let's say this young man, for example, this young woman made a mistake. It's a public mistake. And people point saying, you know, this person is parents' fault that he or she is like this. This is what they do. This is a result of this. Talking about a subject that we don't have that much even information about. We try to make example out of people that we don't even know. In the name of, helping people, in the name of teaching people. And Allah said in the Quran, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسِ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ. When they're being said, have iman and faith, the same way that other people now that have iman. The deniers, they said, do you want us to believe in what the fools believe? And Allah said, أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed, they are the fools, but they're not aware of it themselves. And when it said they are making fun of Allah and the Prophet of God, and what is considered to be the one who is leading toward guidance, they're mocking, they do istihza. Allah said, Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamuddahum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun. The one who are being mocked, Allah give him this comfort that they are the one that in reality deserve to be made fun of, because they're drowning more in their blindhood. They're drowning themselves more in their misguidance. Imagine that if you are the one on fire and you're making fun of somebody for playing with fire. That's irony, right? It's a funny situation. Allah said, those who make fun of others because of their iman, they are the one that truly they deserve to be mocked. Because they're getting deeper and deeper in their misguidance. So number one, my dear brother and sister, if you want a regretless life, don't mock. In married couple, I say that never make fun of your spouse. Never make fun of their family. Never make fun of your children. These should be given, but unfortunately I've seen interaction that shows other way. Sometimes even among family friends that you are, sitting with your families on the same sofa, on the same table, people make fun of the spouse's cooking. And in the name of joke. We're joking. We have Imam Kadhim alayhi salam said a mu'min, Allah loves a mu'min who is basically somebody with humor. Allah loves those people. Mu'minun muda'ib. The one who uses humor properly is the person that brings a smile on people's lips properly. Allah loves that mu'min. Doesn't like the abus mu'min, the one with the frown all the time. So humor has to be there. But istihza and making fun of people, ridicule of other people, mocking people is not no kind of comedy in a criteria of Islamic humor. It's not permissible in any way. So if you want to be funny, please find other ways, other method to be funny. And don't make fun of yourself either. Our izzah and our dignity doesn't even let us to make fun of ourselves. To say negative things about ourselves, oh, it's me, it's not a big deal. No, you cannot even make fun of yourself. You should not make fun of yourself. That's number one. Stay away from any form of mockery, any form of insult. And we have that istihza creates the most amount of damage. In your child upbringing, God forbid if you make fun of your children. I talked to 50 years old who remembered their father made fun of them. 50 years old. When you listen and talk to them, they remember that. So, what a, old grudge that they keep on to. They hold on to. That's the damage of mockery. Two more and shall I finish. The second way to minimize regret, to eliminate regret according to tradition, we have that the greatest regret for a man in the day of judgment, the hadith said, Imam Ali alayhi salam said, is when somebody work in this dunya. They work hard in this dunya and they collect and they gather. But they use that for the wrong reason, or they save it for the wrong reason. They don't utilize the resources for the good. And they die. And the money goes to their family, their children, somebody. And they are the one using that money for a good cause. And we have in the day of judgment, they are the most regretful of all mankind. That they said, I earned the money in a haram. I'm the one who broke all the rules of God, and I oppressed myself. I did dhulm of self when I made this money and this wealth. And I'm being punished for it. And the other person who didn't even work for that used it for a good cause, and he's being rewarded for it. That's the greatest regret. I say that the relevance of that to our lives is sometimes the fathers, you don't see them much in the communities. Where are you? The dad is working. Where's the mom is working? Who's raising the children? Nannies. And you say, okay, I know you work, but it's weekend. Sheikh, and they say, look at my clothes, it's old. I bought this jacket 5 years ago. I did not buy a new jacket. I'm working for my family. And I said, I know you work for your family, you provide for them, but even if you work all the week, there are going to be more expenses coming to your life. There will be. Because as our income start to rise, our expenses also rise with it, right? If you don't have that much income, you get a car with, let's say, a couple of hundred, say 200, payment. If you have more money, you're going to get a car with 700 payment, right? That's the way life, unfortunately, is. More money, more expenditure. There are exceptions. Of course, you say, no, Sheikh, I'm not like that. I have a 401k, I save for the future, retirement. I'm not talking about you, and I hope, inshallah, you pay your khums on that. But for regular people, that's not the way. We make more money, I'm going to spend it. I have plans for it. I have plans for everything. Life is short, I'm going to spend it. And I tell them that if you work more and more and more and you make more, there's not a day that your family will come to you if they are not mu'min. If they're mu'min, then they may. But if they're not mu'min, it's not a day that said, Dad, please just stop working. We don't want, new phones. We don't want new cars. We want to see you on the weekend. If you're waiting for that day to come, there are 1 in 1,000 that may happen. It will not be that day. A parent was complaining, and it's a fair complaint. Said, I go shopping and my children are inside the house. And they have cars. They're not married, but they live with me. They have their own cars. And guess who's paying for the car? The family, right? The parents are paying. Said, I'm the one on the weekend. I work the entire week, right? So there's a weekend for them, and there's a weekend for me. I'm going shopping. So when I shop, there's a weekend, we need this, we need halal meat, we need food, we need whatever we need. And I come to the house, and I asked them to come and help me to bringing the grocery inside the house, and they said, we're busy. It's not that all children are like this. It's not that, God forbid, I'm accusing, of the children and the youth here of that. But this is a fair complaint. That I do all that, and for taking the grocery from the car to the house, there is a challenge. And I said sometimes, I asked that father that, I blame you for this a bit. I said, why? I said, how many times you say? He said, sometimes the younger the children are, they need authority. We should not give options to a 9-year-old. Oh, do you like to come and help me? You have to come and help me. It's a have to. 7 to 14, Rasulullah said, right? Your children has to be the one that is serving. You tell them to do this, they do it. After 14 is a consultation, is advisory position. would you like to do this with me? Would you want to support me? That's a collaboration. Up to 14, authority. Father figure, you have to be there. Not to oppress them. Please don't make them work at 12 midnight, I don't know, doing something over them. Let's build a house. But when it comes to grocery and all that, you have to take them with you. We don't, and when they get married, we have one of the issues when they get married. They cannot do basic shopping when they're married. A young man who I did the nikah texted me, Sheikh, where do you buy halal meat from? 25 years old. Married, 25, and I gave the address, but imagine 25 years old and he doesn't know where the halal meat comes from. So the second way to minimize regret is don't sacrifice your own life for the sake of the family. Quran said, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. You want to know who are the one with the greatest amount of loss in the day of judgment? Those that their wealth or their family, their children, led them to destruction. Led them to forget Allah. Yes, you go out of your way to provide for the family. You work hard. The one who works for the family is equal to the one who do jihad fi sabilillah. All the tradition are fine. But none of them said that you have to sacrifice your own iman, your own responsibilities because of them. It could be the dunya. Oh, I need to maintain this dunya. And because of that, I have to forget all the responsibilities that I have. Or I have to provide this family. I have to forget about prayers, fasting, hajj. People say, I don't have time for hajj. I said, once in your lifetime, if you have money for it, you have to do a hajj. I said, I have so many stuff to do. I said, I know nobody's free, but once in your lifetime, the moment you have the money for hajj and you have the money for the family, leave the money for the family, go to hajj. Once. I said, no, Sheikh, is not going to happen. It's too much. Who's going to take care of the shop? Who's going to take care of the family? And we think we're the God of the family, which ultimately we are the wasila, we are the sabab, we're the mean. We are the middleman, we're not the man. But sometimes when we're involved in the cycle, we're not aware of that. We forget that we assume that we're everything. So that's the greatest cause of regret as well. Those who sacrifice their iman, their principles for family or for dunya. Use your dunya for the good cause. Don't think of all the time, it's good to have a plan, a saving for children, but don't take from your own life into that saving. If it's a wajib on you, there is a must responsibility. Don't put in that saving. You must spend it for that cause. If Allah is the one who made that command and rule, and He promised He will provide the rizq, trust Him. Spend time with your family, my dear brothers and sisters. Those who work 7 days a week, please spend time with your family. Don't let TV and cell phones raise your children. And don't wait for the 25 years old son come to you and they are thinking the way they think, their personality, their identity, and they're not the same person. They're not the same 5-year-old that you know. They're a young man now with their own ideas and values, and then you think of a solution at 25 or 20. You have to be a father and spend time with them and raise them next to your work and responsibility. Mothers, same responsibility as well. Each of them have their own role. Don't spoil them in the manner of dunya. And I finish with one more, inshallah. The third reason of regret, Imam Ali alayhi salam said, Ana yawm al-qiyamah hasra ala nas. I'm one of the greatest regret of mankind in the day of judgment. Those that they knew me and they ignored me. Those that they could have learned from me and they ignored me. When Allama Sharafuddin, there's Al-Murajaat, which is a collection of the letters, was talking to this Mufti of Al-Azhar. He was referencing some of the books that we have. and he expressed regrets that why I didn't know about them earlier. Muhammad Abda has a commentary on Nahj al-Balagha. If you look at the introduction of commentary of Nahj al-Balagha by Ahlul Sunnah scholar, he said, I regret that why we didn't know about this book much earlier. There's a regret that we don't know Ahlul Bayt. You know, Sheikh Ammar was here, Sheikh Ammar Haidar, last week, and we had a discussion. He was saying that with his family, when he came back from a trip, they end up knowing someone in that trip, in the camping site, in the camping area. He said, as I would, he said it publicly, so that's the reason I narrate this story. He said, as we were leaving the campground, this man who was very helpful, he came to us and he had something, a present, gift wrapped, ready to me. He gave it to us. And we said thank you and appreciate it. And as the moment we get into the car, my children said, Dad, please open it. What is it? What is it? What is it? So when we opened the present, it was 30 pocket-sized Bible. 30 pockets of Bible. According to him, said, at that moment I thought that how many Quran I have in my own car to give it away. The reality is that Imam Ali said, I'm one of the greatest regret on the Day of Judgment. Forget others who don't know Ali ibn Abi Talib. Those that we know Ali ibn Abi Talib, how many times we read Nahj al-Balagha? I hope at least once. I'm not saying have the pocket size of those giving it to others, not necessarily, but read it ourselves before giving Sayf al-Sajjadiyah to somebody to read it. Take a look at it ourselves. And we have so many Westerners, non-Muslims, who they end up reading a bit about them. They find some translation, which a lot of them unfortunately are not that good. They don't really transfer the message properly. They're very incomplete in showing what it means, what is being said. That's one of the issues we have. Al-Mizan is not complete in translation. And I blame myself and everyone for that. 2018, and translation of so many authentic books are not complete. We have summaries of the book. And even those, I hope that inshallah we read them at least, what we have, what is available. And then after you enjoy it, you know why we don't give it to others? Why is that? If you never watched the movie, would you recommend it to someone? Would you? I hope not. When you saw something and it really impressed you, oh, you saw Muhammad Rasulullah, it's a great movie. You should see it. But if I never seen it, I'm not going to recommend it to anyone. Or if I didn't get it. When it comes to Quran, Nahj al-Balagha, Sayf al-Sajjadiyah, all these resources that we have, if I enjoy it a lot myself, then I feel that, okay, somebody is missing it. I have to give it to somebody as well. They should see what I see as well. They should enjoy as much as I enjoy. That's one of the hasra. That we have these and God forbid we're not taking advantage of them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to be able to have a life of awliya Allah, that they have no grief, no agony, no regret in the time of death. That they leave this dunya with the peace. Ala inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahsanun. We will be able, inshallah, to experience such a life that we live a life that our death will be with no fear, with no regret. That our future is clear and our past is clear. Let's say, inshallah, say salam to Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam. Tonight is the second night, tomorrow is the second, so tonight is the night of the second of Muharram. And second of Muharram is the day that Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam arrived with his companions to the land of Karbala. And usually the musibah is the remembrance and the narrative of that day, the second day. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq, the worthiness to be the za'ir, the visitor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, and the graves of his companions. From distance, all of us together, with sincerity of the heart, we say the salam. May Allah inshallah accept the salam. And as the Imam promised that the jawab and the answer of the salam is wajib, inshallah our salam will be answered by the Imam of our time as well. Everyone together. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحابه. Like tomorrow they arrived to the land of Karbala. And as you know, at that time there was no sign or no indication that what is the name of this place. They stopped in so many other manazil and stations. But when they arrived to the Karbala, they heard Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-karbi wal-bala. Ya Allah, I seek refuge to you from the agony, from the distress, and from the affliction to you. And then he faced his family and companion and said, this is our place. This is the place that our blood will shed. This is a place that our bodies will be buried. I heard my grandfather Rasulullah, who told me about this land. And imagine this is a time that still the army didn't confronted them, still Hur and his army didn't come yet. And when Imam Hussein said, we stop here, they start setting up tents. And imagine what Abu Abdullah Hussein wanted to set up the tent. All the companions were there to say, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, let us do it. Let us have the honor to do that for you. And when Sayyid Zainab al-Kubra, Salamullah alayha, wanted to come up from the camel, from the ride, there were so many mahram, so many family members. Abbas is there, Ali Akbar, Qasim, all these mahram are around Zainab. They covered, they protected them at that moment. No stranger eyes laid upon Zainab and the children of Hussein alayhi salam. This peaceful caravan is setting up their tents and camp in Karbala. But on the 11th of Muharram, few days later, as we approach this day of tragedy, we have that Zainab al-Kubra help all the children, all the women to ride the camels, to be ready for the journey. And now is Zainab's turn. In order to be able to ride the camel, you need somebody to assist you. And Zainab in the 2nd of Muharram had Abbas, had Ali Akbar to assist her. And now she's looking, there is not even one mahram for Zainab at that time. Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam himself was held by Zainab al-Kubra salamullah alayha. And we have in some of the narratives that Zainab came to the Qatliya, came to the place of Shahada of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and said, my brother Hussein, I help everyone to be ready for this journey, but who is going to help Zainab? La yawm ka yawmika ya Abu Abdullah. Zainab is the same person that on this journey, when it came to the night and the time of tahajjud, salatul layl, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam said that I saw my aunt Zainab still perform her salatul layl, her prayers of the night. This is the same Zainab that when it came, we have that when they brought them to the Kufa, that her speech was the main reason of the Bani Umayyah being exposed to the eyes of the people and coming to their senses that what kind of betrayal they did to the family of Ala Muhammad salawatullah wasalamu alayhi. But la yawm ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah, when he was leaving Zainab al-Kubra salamullah alayha, this is the advice of Hussein alayhi salam. Said, my sister Zainab, don't let the enemy see your tears. Don't let the enemy feel that you have weakness, and have sovereign patience and see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything is with His presence, is with His awareness. And we have that when the Shahada happened, and she truly followed the advice of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, as she said this, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. Ya Allah, accept this sacrifice from the family of Ala Muhammad salawatullah salamu alayhi. وَأَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. Inshallah, everybody.